Hey guys, I want to share something with you today that I really believe is going to encourage you, not just for today, but you can take it into this week and even into this next season of life. So many of you, so many of us are in seasons of transition. And it's something the Lord's really been speaking to me about. And I just want to pour into you about that for a minute. The Lord's been speaking to me a lot about the miracle of when Jesus feeds the 5,000. I love it. It's one of my favorite miracles that he does. And I think it's overlooked in a lot of ways. And I actually think, I've heard it preached on many different times. I want to give you just a different perspective that the Lord has been speaking to me about in my own life personally. We read in this story, it's found in Matthew, that the disciples came, that Jesus had just got done ministering. There was a massive group of people around. They were hungry. They needed food. They needed dinner. The disciples came to Jesus and said, Jesus, dismiss them, send them away to the villages so that they can go get their food for supper. And Jesus, I love his response. I love his response to his disciples. He says, don't dismiss them. You give them supper. You feed them. And they said, all we have is 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. That's not enough to feed the masses, right? Like, logically speaking, it's not going to happen. But we don't serve a God of logical. We serve a God of miracle. And so Jesus said, give them to me. So the disciples give him the 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Jesus proceeds to take them in his hand. He looks up to heaven. He blesses it. He thanks God for it. And then he breaks it and he gives them to the disciples so that the disciples can give them to the people. Now, what I love about this miracle is that I think that we can take one thing away from it, right? We can take away the fact, the very surface level of Jesus does miracles and that he broke the bread and fed thousands of people with not very much. I want to take you deeper though, because at the end of that, if we keep going further, what it says, in some translations, it even says that thousands were fed plus some. One translation even says thousands were fed, not including women and children. So we can take away from this miracle that with very, very small, minuscule, limited resources, Jesus did abundantly more than we could ever ask or imagine. Weird. The Word of God says that that's what he does. But we see that demonstrated. That though, if we take it back, I think it would be safe to say that Jesus could have done just enough with less, right? So let's just take a number. He could have maybe done just enough with 2 loaves of bread and 1 fish. Is that safe to say? Because the Word of God says that thousands were fed plus some. There was plenty of left over. It says that there was 12 basketfuls left over that the disciples gathered so that nothing would be wasted. So here's what I want to tell you. Is God can do just enough with not very much, okay? He can do just enough with less. Here's what I want to challenge you, and the Lord's been encouraging me with and talking to me about, is that when you give him all you have, he does more. He does abundantly more than you could ever ask or imagine. See, we serve a God of more. You serve a God of miracles. You serve a God of multiplication. So when you give him everything you have, everything, whether you think it's a big deal or not, his word says nothing will go to waste if you give it to me. I don't care what your past is. It's not going to go to waste if you give it to God. I don't care what your fears are. They're not going to go to waste if you give it to God. I don't care what your doubts are, your worries, your struggles, your burdens. Give them to God. Why? Because his word says that I will do abundantly more than you could ever ask or imagine. See, he can do just enough with not very much. But when we give him everything we are, every part of our life, every single mistake, every failure, every success, every victory, I don't care what it is, when you give him all you have, all of a sudden, he does above and beyond what is even needed, because that's the God he is. Listen, there is nothing. I think we want to look at ourselves and say it's not enough. It's not enough. Us and ourselves and our human, finite, limited state is not enough. That's why you got to surrender and give it to God. Listen, Jesus did more because he had all. Trust him. Lay down your entire life. Ali, what does that look like? It looks like saying, God, I know that I don't have enough. I know I'm not enough. I know that I've made mistakes. I know my past doesn't look very good. I know I've messed it up. But because I trust you, because you're faithful, because I know that you will turn everything for good when I love you and I surrender to you, I'm going to lay this thing down at your feet. I'm going to give you all I have, all I am. I can't see tomorrow. I can't see 5 feet from me. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know you're good and I know you're faithful. Listen, trust him. Give him your entire life. When you give him all, he does more, okay? I love you guys so, so, so much. I'm always praying for you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.